Deep within the Amazon rainforest, hundreds of miles from the nearest metropolis, lies a ghost town. Perfectly manicured suburban homes, a modern hospital, and manicured golf courses now surrender to the relentless embrace of the jungle. This is not the remnant of a lost civilization. This was an American dream, a Midwestern utopia built less than a century ago. And it was the creation of one of the most famous industrialists in history, Henry Ford. How did this titan of industry, a man who revolutionized the modern world, preside over one of the most spectacular and costly failures of the 20th century? What possessed him to build a perfect slice of Michigan in the heart of the world's most unforgiving wilderness? And why was it doomed from the very beginning? In the early 20th century, Henry Ford was king. His assembly line was the engine of a new world, and the Model T put that world on wheels. But every single one of those cars needed 4 rubber tires, and that rubber came from one place, Southeast Asia, under the tight control of a British monopoly. Ford, a man who famously sought control over every nut and bolt of his operation, detested this dependency. He saw the British price-fixing as extortion. He needed his own supply, a source he could manage with Ford-like efficiency. His gaze turned to the source, the Amazon basin in Brazil, the native home of the Hevea brasiliensis rubber tree. In 1928, Ford's company secured a staggering concession of 10,000 square kilometers of dense jungle. But Ford's vision extended far beyond a simple plantation. He wasn't just going to grow rubber, he was going to cultivate a society. He would build a city named, with characteristic modesty, Fordlandia. It would be a beacon of American ingenuity and wholesome values, a civilizing force in the primitive jungle. Blueprints depicted a perfect town, complete with a state-of-the-art hospital, a power plant, neat rows of clapboard houses, schools, swimming pools, and even a dance hall for mandatory weekend square dances. It was Dearborn, Michigan, reborn in the Amazon. The project began with immense force. Ships carried entire houses, sawmills, and power plants up the Tapajos River. But the first signs of trouble were not logistical, they were botanical. Ford's engineers, experts in machines, knew nothing of tropical agriculture. They ignored the hard-won knowledge of the local people, the Serengetos, who understood that rubber trees thrive when scattered throughout the jungle, protecting them from pests. Instead, the Americans planted them in neat, dense rows like corn in Iowa. This industrial approach to nature was a catastrophic mistake. The tightly packed trees created a perfect breeding ground for insects, and more devastatingly, a fungal blight called South American leaf blight. The very ecosystem they tried to tame fought back, and the plantation was ravaged by disease before it could ever produce a single drop of latex for a Ford tire. The agricultural failure was mirrored by a profound cultural one. Ford's puritanical ideals were enforced with an iron fist. Alcohol was forbidden. Workers were required to live in the sterile, identical houses and wear ID badges. Most controversially, they were forced to eat American food. In a region rich with fish, manioc, and tropical fruits, Ford's cafeterias served hamburgers, canned vegetables, and whole wheat bread. This wasn't just a matter of taste, it was a rejection of their identity. The soul of Fordlandia was American, and it demanded its inhabitants become American too. The rigid 9-to-5 workday clashed with the rhythms of the jungle, where locals were accustomed to working in the cooler hours of the early morning and late afternoon. The mandatory square dances were met with bewilderment. Resentment simmered beneath the surface of this imposed utopia.
In 1930, it finally boiled over. The spark was the cafeteria. A dispute over the self-serve system, which workers felt was just another demeaning rule, escalated into a full-blown riot. Chanting "Brazil for Brazilians," the workers went on a rampage. They systematically destroyed the symbols of Ford's control. The hated time clocks were smashed, the cafeteria was wrecked, and company cars were pushed into the river. The American managers, who had once seen themselves as benevolent patriarchs, fled for their lives, hiding in the jungle for days until the Brazilian army could arrive to restore order. Fordlandia, the city of order, had descended into chaos. After the riot, Ford's management made some concessions, but the core problems remained. The leaf blight was incurable. They even attempted to start over, moving the project downstream to a new site called Belterra, but the agricultural science was simply against them. However, the final death blow to Fordlandia came not from the jungle, but from a laboratory. During World War II, with rubber supplies cut off, scientists in the United States perfected synthetic rubber. Suddenly, the entire rationale for Fordlandia vanished. The project, which had never been profitable, was now utterly obsolete. After Henry Ford's death, his grandson, Henry Ford II, was tasked with cleaning up the books. In 1945, he sold Fordlandia and Belterra back to the Brazilian government for a mere $250,000, crystallizing a total loss of over $20 million, an astronomical sum at the time. The dream was officially over. The American workers packed up and left. The jungle began its slow, inevitable work of reclamation. Today, the ruins of Fordlandia stand as a powerful monument to industrial hubris. It's a story of a man who could bend steel, but not nature, who could build 1,000,000 cars, but not a community. It teaches us that you cannot simply impose a dream on a place. You must listen to what the place and its people have to say. The Amazon silently swallowed a city, leaving behind a warning about the limits of vision and the cost of ignoring the world as it is. History is filled with grand ambitions that ended in spectacular failure. What other colossal projects have been forgotten by time? Share your thoughts and suggestions for our next exploration in the comments below. And if you enjoy uncovering the ghosts of history, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss where we go next.